Okay, Baltimore City Council Ways and Means Committee, we're back for ordinance 24-0521, ordinance of estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. We're here for Office of Emergency Management, or OEM, which resides in BCFD, Baltimore City Fire Department. Eric Costello, councilman from the 11th District, chair of the committee. To my left, Councilwoman Odette Ramos, 14th District, Councilwoman Felicia Porter, 10th District, Councilman John Bullock, 9th District. Richard Kremerich to my right, staff to the committee. We have representatives from the mayor's office and the council president's office. For this one, we have Chief Jay Wallace from the fire department here, and we also have Director Joey Henderson from OEM. Chief Wallace, I'm going to turn it over to you for a brief intro on OEM, and then we'll turn it over to Director Henderson to go through the slides and answer questions. Chief, take it away.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Chairman Costello and members of the committee. My name is James Wallace. I'm the chief of the Baltimore City Fire Department. Thank you for this hearing today. We are here to respectfully submit on behalf of Service 608 within the fire department's budget book, which is the Office of Emergency Management. For a further brief and Q&A, I'm going to turn it over to Director Henderson from the Office of Emergency Management.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, honorable members of council. I'm here for Service 608, which is emergency management. The FY2025 recommended budget for OEM is $2,939,794. The Office of Emergency Management's primary mission, yes. Thank you, sir. The Office of Emergency Management's primary mission is to prepare the city of Baltimore for natural and man-made disasters and to coordinate the citywide response to those incidents. The operations section within OEM maintains the city's Emergency Operations Center. Over the last year, the EOC has been activated 12 times for special events, sporting events, weather, and no-notice events. OEM continues to provide 24/7 response capabilities. Our senior leadership and our emergency management specialist program have responded to over 53 responses, including multiple alarm fires, critical infrastructure, emergencies, and human services incidents. Our communication section continues to provide situational awareness to our residents by providing timely information. Last December, we partnered with multiple city agencies to roll out our Be More Alert mass notification system. We also continue to strive to improve our reach on social media and information sharing on our website. Our planning section continues to partner with city and non-governmental agencies to develop all hazard plans and procedures. Just to name a few, our emergency operations plan has been updated and is with the mayor for signature. We participated with the Department of Planning in the DP3 planning process, and OEM created a dashboard to help us better manage large-scale disasters. In our preparedness section, we continue to spread the preparedness message by participating in over 30 outreach events all over the city. For the coming fiscal year, OEM will focus on our most vulnerable population, those with access and functional needs, and those seniors. Our preparedness staff worked with city agencies, the Maryland Department of Emergency Management, and the Small Business Administration to set up a very successful disaster recovery center at the Care First building to help our residents recover from the impact of the Francis Scott Key Bridge incident. The DRC will be closing tomorrow after 2 months of being open to assist the citizens of Baltimore. To ensure the city agencies maintain a level of preparedness for large-scale emergencies, OEM will continue to conduct training and exercises for city staff. At this time, OEM is preparing for the storm season, which starts June 1st, by developing a citywide storm tabletop exercise along with several other exercises and workshops that OEM will host in preparation for the coming season. Lastly, we ensure that the city has the tools to respond to large emergencies or disasters by managing Homeland Security grant funds and working with city agencies to obtain the needed equipment. At this time, I'm happy to take any questions.
Director, thank you very much. We've also been joined by Council Vice President Sharon Green Middleton, 6th District member of the committee, Councilman Mark Conway, 4th District. You and your team have been doing an outstanding job. Deeply grateful for your service. Please continue to keep up the excellent work. Middleton, Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to meet you, and I know you've been hard at work since coming onto the job, and I've heard wonderful things about you thus far, and appreciate all the great work you guys have been doing in response to the Key Bridge collapse. I'm curious what we've learned about operations and opportunities for improvement based on the Key Bridge collapse. Are there recommended changes or other things that we should be thinking about or we are already thinking about in this budget in light of that collapse?
So we learn from each and every disaster that we have. I know the city fire department is in the process of conducting an after action report. However, what we did learn from this incident is that we can manage a large scale event and we can work with our regional, state, and federal partners to manage such event. We had resources, and Chief Wallace can attest to this from as far away as Prince George's County come to assist us. But again, we can always learn and improve. And once that after action report comes out, we'll continue to improve and develop training and exercises that will meet those vulnerabilities.
So we're not expecting really anything in this current budget until after we see that report?
Yes, it's going to take some time to develop that after action report. But for right now, OEM's focus as we sharply turned from the bridge incident to, again, preparing for the June 1st storm season, which the National Weather Service has issued a very strong report in terms of how many named storms that we might get this season.
Got it. Thank you. Mr. Chair, are we limited to one question or two?
Well, we can do two for this one.
Before we move on, Councilman, can I just add to the director's response regarding your question? So there was, in the aftermath of the collapse, the Board of Estimates approved the release of $1 million to the city's civic fund to support the relief and recovery efforts for families of the victims of the collapse, but then also funds were able to be deployed to support businesses and workers that were impacted by the collapse. And so from that perspective, from a budgetary standpoint, we continue to closely monitor the emerging needs that we're hearing from the agencies that are working on that side of the response. The other thing that happened immediately following the bridge collapse is we went into a posture where we began tracking citywide costs in the event that there was some sort of cost reimbursement program that the city would be eligible for as part of the response. We don't know that we will receive any sort of declaration for reimbursement, but we were able to quickly begin tracking those costs, immediately the day after the bridge collapse.
That's really helpful to know, and I'm glad we're thinking about these pieces and learning as we move forward. Thank you. The other question I had was actually tied to performance measures. On page 133 of volume 1, the performance measure for community members trained for community emergency response team program has been 0 for the last couple of years. Curious what's going on here and where this metric comes from, and are we training folks? Do we have plans for that and capacity for that this fiscal year, and what are the outcomes that we're looking for out of that effort?
Thank you for your question. So we've actually been working to revitalize our Citizens Emergency Response Team training program. We actually have a class scheduled for next weekend, and we already have 20 residents signed up. We will be conducting classes every other month, and we actually already have citizens signed up for classes all the way out until November. So we have partnered with the Training Academy to have some of the fire service instructors assist OEM in teaching our CERT program. So we are in the process of getting our program back up and revitalized.
And what are we training them there on, and what do we expect to come from those trainings and efforts?
So the CERT program is a nationally sponsored program that FEMA implements. It came from some after actions on the West Coast in terms of wildland fires and earthquakes. So we'll be training our citizens on general preparedness, basic first aid, how to use things like a fire extinguisher, how to identify their shutoffs in their homes for both their gas and their water. So it's a 2-day in-person training that we'll be actually teaching them all those steps. And I'm actually one of the instructors that'll be teaching it.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Bullock. Porter.
Thank you. I did have first, I just want to congratulate you again. I share Councilman Conway's sentiments that I believe you all are doing a great job. I've been personally impacted by the stand-ups that you all have done in my community. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Number two, I want to talk about the Be More Alert system. One of the considerations that we've been talking with MDE about is making sure that we coordinate between the state and the city about environmental hazards that are coming through. For example, the medical waste incineration issue in Curtis Bay, just any number of environmental hazards. How are you all working with MDE to kind of push that out to people? And what is the threshold that you all are using to push that information out?
So the Be More Alert system is, for those that don't know, is a mass notification system that OEM uses in case of emergency where we can reach out to our citizens. We try to maintain a strict regimen around who we notify and what we use it for, so our residents don't get conditioned to not pay attention to it. So we're constantly working with other city agencies and state agencies to determine when appropriate to send out a notification. So in that particular case, if it's identified as something that's emergent or something that is a threat to the health or safety of our residents, we can push that information out. But again, we try to maintain strict usage of that system and keep it for only things that are emergent.
You want to say?
I would, and good afternoon, ma'am, Chief Wallace from
Yes,
the
sir.
Fire Department. I would just add to that, during times of hazardous materials emergencies, we actually have scripted responses, right? So apparatus that's deployed to the incident scene as well as personnel. Our tendency to make notification upscales as the incident itself upscales. So we have level 1, 2, and 3 incidents. When we move into that middle level 2 incident, we will begin to make notification to a very localized area. However, we also prepare a message for broader dissemination should an incident scale its way out of control. Hazardous materials incidents obviously are very, very unpredictable, and oftentimes what we see when we get there is not what we're dealing with an hour later. So messaging, we don't want to jump the gun and create panic. I think we do a very good job of determining what the chemical or agent it is that we're dealing with, developing public action guidelines around that. I think through the years, we've continued to do better. And I would say that, fortunately that I'm aware of, at least in the recent past, we've not had a need for that. However, we're into the Everbridge system now, which I believe is a better system than what we were using. It gives us more of a strategic capability to kind of geo-fence an area and put a message in. But, the danger with over messaging is the desensitization of the population. So we really have to find that balance when it comes to that.
Sure. So one of the concerns that I have is that cross-jurisdictional in Anne Arundel County, they are reporting things through their OEM system, and we're not reporting in our OEM system. So I wonder if there's some sort of similarities between the thresholds, because oftentimes I'm getting notifications from the Anne Arundel County alert systems, but I'm not getting, and that's where I'm getting my information from, and that's when I call you. So it's just like, I wonder if there can be some sort of discussion, whether it be at the state level with MDE or even just between Anne Arundel County and Baltimore City, about how there can be some congruence with the level of hazard, but also the communication structure by which we communicate with our residents, because Curtis Bay being so close to Anne Arundel County, like, they're getting their information from there when they should be getting it from Baltimore City. Thank you.
We've also been joined by Councilman Tony Glover, 13th District, Councilman Chris Burnett, 8th District, member of the committee. Ramos?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, OEM and me and my office spend a lot of time together, particularly during the rainy season with all of the floods all the flood areas that I have in my district. So I just want to thank you very much for that, all the work that you do. I noticed that there's a major federal grant that's, according to the book, looks like you've lost. Is that just an accounting issue like all the others?
It's not an accounting issue, it's a change in practice in terms of how we are budgeting grants.
So that's what all that is. So
The reduction from $7.7 million in fiscal '24 to 1.7 in fiscal '25 reflects both removing unallocated
Right.
grant appropriation for anticipated awards, but also removing old grants that are no longer being received by OEM.
So then when that grant comes in, it'll come in as a supplemental, we'll see it, basically.
Well, as of the information that we have right now, OEM anticipates to receive $1.7 million in federal grants. Should OEM receive grants in excess of $1.7 million, that would result in a supplemental where we would bring that through Board of Estimates and City Council for approval.
Okay, and so just to clarify, but there's no position, there's a gain in positions. So you're doing the same work, or was it just that 7 million, that grant doesn't exist anymore, and so you're just gonna have to continue that same work? I'm just trying to understand how that works within the office.
So the change in position, the position count for this service reflects mid-year position actions that were approved following adoption of the fiscal '24 budget. So there were 2 federally funded grant positions that were created after last year's budget, or after the current year's budget got adopted, and 1 position that was previously grant funded got moved to the general fund. We're reflecting for the grant budget for fiscal '25 is based off of known awards at this time. What I will say is that the $7.7 million in federal funds in the fiscal '24 budget, a great deal of that was associated with anticipated awards that were not real.
Got it, okay.
And so there is no loss of funding. This is a better, more accurate depiction of what is anticipated to be received next year.
Right, and I realize that that's kind of throughout the budget, we're seeing that. It's just so much more stark here with that 7 million. So I appreciate, and I'm glad to know that your grant writers don't have to work overtime. They'll be able to at least do the what needs to be done. So that was my question. Thank you.
Glover? Burnett?
I'm good. I thank you for clarifying I actually had the same question about the grant. I was freaking out, but then I was also like, there's no way the former director of OEM would just gut OEM, so there's got to be something else going on here. I just want to thank you for continuing to be a partner, especially, the work along Frederick Avenue and the flood response. I just want to make sure I use these opportunities to lift up that work because, obviously we still have a long way to go to protect the residents of Beachfield and Irvington and Tremont. But OEM has been a great partner at the Alert, the Works, our new director here. So I didn't see you in the corner. But, the direct outreach, the door knocking has been well received by folks in my district. And so I just want to publicly say thank you guys for your work and that continued effort.
Okay, Middleton, Conway, Bullock, Porter.
Yes. I did have one more question about sustainability efforts related to OEM. Can you speak to how you all are sustaining your operations, particularly as we are post-COVID? How are you all kind of integrating or at least saving up not only operations but funding for anything that could occur in the future?
I can start. So pandemic related, we had the ability to stockpile masks. I was very fortunate, as most of you remember, when Mayor Young had put me in as the interim director of OEM. I was very fortunate to inherit a stockpile of masks myself, and I think that gave us a very preliminary but a very effective bridge into beginning to protect our city employees. So as we were coming out of the pandemic, and again, this is just pandemic related supplies, as we were coming out of that, we made sure that we paid that forward. With that, with regard to just other emergencies, natural disaster emergencies and things like that, I think that's a constant effort in the city in general with a lot of agencies. I think that because we experienced, again, I'll just speak during my tenure, we experienced numerous natural disasters during the pandemic, as well as some unfortunate man-made disasters. I think we became better prepared, not only in our education level, but just in the way we equip ourselves, whether it be from PPE up through some of the equipment that we now have available to a lot of our responders. Finally, I would say the planning element. The planning element has got a lot better. I was real happy to pass the torch to Joey on a lot of the relationships that we had in OEM, not only internal to the city but external. I would say that a lot of those external relationships showed themselves very, very well during the Key Bridge event. I'm extraordinarily proud of how this city responded. When we called agencies to send reps down, they were there. We were very effective as a city, and I think that just years of work and continued work that we know will happen really paid off and showed itself.
Mr. Chair, may I ask one last question, please? Thank you. How are you all accounting for any type of technological or cybersecurity as it relates to emergency management?
So one of my jobs as the director of OEM is to continue to work with our city agencies, and that includes BSIT. So in June, we actually will co-host a cybersecurity tabletop exercise for BSIT. So to continue the work of making sure that we're prepared for if another adversary tries to impact our system. So, and just to piggyback onto what Chief Wallace stated in terms of equipment, we continue to use our Homeland Security dollars to make sure that we are working with our agencies to buy and procure the right equipment. So for when that next, God forbid, major incident happens, we're better prepared for it.
Does that include artificial intelligence?
BSIT it has been working towards dealing with artificial intelligence. My staff has actually been a part of the exercise. I have not, because I'm actually a player. So I don't know what the scenario would be, but I do know the BSIT director has had that front and center.
Thank you.
Ramos? Glover? Burnett? Any other questions? Director, thank you very much. Chief, see you back at 2 p.m. sharp for fire. We're now in recess.